Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Mr. Prabhupada Subhadaraja Gacharya Astatana Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Go Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, pure devotional service. Text 10. Akama sarvakama va mokshakama udharati tigrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param akama sarvakamo va mokshakama udharati tigrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param akama sarvakamo va mokshakama udharati tigrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param akama, one who has transcended all material desires. Sarvakama, one who has the sum total of material desires. Va, either. Mokshakama, one who desires liberation. Udadati, with broader intelligence. Tigrena, with great force. Bhakti yogena, by devotional service to the Lord. Yajeta, should worship. Purusham, the Lord. Param, the Supreme Whole. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desires, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Purushottama, or the Supreme Personality. It is He only who can award liberation to the impersonalists by absorbing such aspirants in the Brahma Jyoti, the bodily rays of the Lord. The Brahma Jyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun ray is not independent of the sun disk. Therefore, one who desires to merge into the Supreme Impersonal Brahma Jyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, as recommended here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as the means of all perfection. In the previous chapters, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of the different varieties of worship of the different demigods. Bhakti Yoga, thus being the supreme means of self-realization, is recommended here. Everyone must therefore seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires for material enjoyment or liberation from material bondage. Akama is one who has no material desire. A living being, naturally being part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, Purusham Purnam, has as his natural function to serve the Supreme Being, just as the parts and parcels of the body or limbs of the body are naturally meant for service, are naturally meant to serve the complete body. Desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this desirelessness as Bhajaniya Parama Purusha Sukha Matrasva Sukhatvam. in his Sandarbha. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of a living being in the material world. And such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism, and so forth by the undeveloped minds of less intelligent persons. In the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling, in which a pure living entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Such superb feelings were exhibited by the damsels of Brajabhumi for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis loved the Lord without any return, and this is the perfect exhibition of the akama spirit. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of akama is fully exhibited in the spiritual world. Thoughts of becoming one with the Lord, or being merged in the Brahmajyoti, can also be exhibitions of kama spirit, if they are desires for one's own satisfaction to be free from the material miseries. A pure devotee does not want liberation so that he may be relieved from the miseries of life. Even without so-called liberation, a pure devotee is aspirant for the satisfaction of the Lord. Influenced by the kama spirit, Arjuna declined to fight in the Kurukshetra battlefield because he wanted to save his relatives for his own satisfaction. But being a pure devotee, he agreed to fight on the instruction of the Lord because he came to his senses and realized that satisfaction of the Lord at the cost of his own satisfaction was his prime duty. Thus he became a kama. That is the perfectional stage of a perfect living being. Udarati means one who has a broader outlook. People with desires for material enjoyment worship small demigods, and such intelligence is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita as hritagana, the intelligence of one who has lost his senses. One cannot obtain any result from demigods without getting sanction from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook can see that the ultimate authority is the Lord, even for material benefits. Under the circumstances, one with a broader outlook, even with desires for material enjoyment or for liberation, should take to the worship of the Lord directly. And everyone, whether an akama or sakkama or mokshakama, should worship the Lord with great expedience. This implies that bhakti yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of karma and jnana, as the unmixed sun ray is very powerful, very forceful, and is therefore called tibra. Similarly, unmixed bhakti yoga of hearing and chanting and so forth may be performed by one and all, regardless of inner motive. Translation again. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of God. Om Jnana Chimanandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmulitangena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. This famous verse from the second canto is in the chapter Pure Devotional Service. And it's interesting that this chapter begins with all kinds of instructions about worshiping the demigods to get various material benedictions. In other words, for someone to actually be a materialist means to know how to obtain temporary material enjoyment. The Bhagavatam standard of materialism is far beyond what you might consider for materialists today. In fact, to call someone a materialist today is a great compliment. By calling someone a materialist implies they know how to live a temporary material life with temporary enjoyment. And that is not the case. The Bhagavatam is giving you the standard of material enjoyment. You worship the demigods, you go to the heavenly planets, you get temporary happiness. What do you have today? You have persons who, in the name of seeking pleasure, destroy themselves, destroy the planet, destroy other living entities. Therefore, it's a misplaced honor to call them materialists. So this chapter begins with instructions on how to be materialist. You want to be popular, you worship this demigod. You want a good partner, you worship that demigod. You want money, you worship here. The whole list is given. But the whole purpose of this chapter is to point out that pure devotional service is the super excellent and natural situation of the living entity. Therefore, udaradi, someone who has actual intelligence, whose intelligence is not constricted, narrow, someone who can actually consider the full scope of life, the full range of possibilities. Such a person understands. Tibrena bhakti yogena. Let me worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the intensity of a sun ray. And of course, the sun ray is unmixed, so therefore for devotional service to be maximally effective, there shouldn't be any ulterior motive. But what about those ulterior motives? The miracle of bhakti is that it transforms desire. So even though someone may begin the path of bhakti with so many motivations other than Krishna's happiness, if such a person engages in devotional service, and especially in the association of devotees, the desires change. This is very mysterious. Krishna talks about this in Chaitanya Charitamrita as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chapter 22 of Madhya Lila. He says, if someone serves me with some material motivation, I'm not unintelligent. In other words, I know how to handle such a person. First of all, they get credit because they're approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes we have this fear that if we engage in Krishna service and we have material desires, we'll be smashed. And therefore we're a little afraid of Krishna. He doesn't cut you any slack. But as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, the mentality, the thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if someone worships me with material desires, okay, I will satisfy those desires, but I'll do it in such a way that the person will never ask for that thing again. This is very merciful. This is very loving. This is very tender. Lord Chaitanya, revealing Krishna's thinking process, says, what kind of doctor is it that allows someone to come with a disease and the doctor doesn't completely treat the disease? In other words, Krishna is saying, I'll handle the disease of material desire in a gradual way. I'll fulfill that desire in such a way that the person becomes purified. So this is tender, loving care, TLC. But yet we have this fear. Oh, Krishna and devotional service, that's only for the pure devotees. I often remember one purport Srila Prabhupada wrote in Chaitanya Charitamrita when talking about this whole phenomenon of material desires and serving Krishna. He said, this Krishna consciousness movement is meant for all types of persons. The ones who are free from material desires, akam. The ones who are full of material desires, sarvakam. This movement is meant for them all. Because in the association of sincere devotees, someone who comes with an ulterior motive, a material motive, will be purified. So I always remember that. This Krishna consciousness movement is meant for all types of persons, whether they have material desires or not. This is our big tent. We're all inclusive in that. Come with all your baggage, come with all your misplaced desires, but engage in devotional service in the association of devotees, and then you'll see the miracle transformation. Now, this is not referring to just being a card-carrying devotee, so to speak. This miracle happens when you engage in service in the midst of devotees. So we have to remember those essential ingredients, not that just by labeling myself as a Hare Krishna, that you'll expect some miracle to happen. You have to invest in the process. And part of the process is associating with devotees, rendering service in the association of devotees. Then you'll see the miracle. Because desire is the real battlefield in terms of spiritual development. And also, desire is the field of perfection. Vrindavan, Krishna's Braj Leela, is all about desire. The Brajvasis only desire Krishna's happiness. And of course, you celebrated the appearance day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wanted to taste, as Krishna, he wanted to taste the selfless love of his best devotees. What are they feeling? What's it like to be a pure lover of me? What's it like to taste my sweetness? What's it like to feel happiness in loving me? The standard of the Brajvasis is so high. What is it like to be a pure lover of myself? So this reality of pure bhakti is so fascinating that Krishna himself wants to know what it's like. Because that pure bhakti conquers even Krishna. He agrees to come under its control. This is a very fascinating part of bhakti, how the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes under the control of pure love. But as in Chaitanya Lila, you see, not only does he want to become under the control of love, but he wants to find out, what is this love like? What's this love all about? Krishna suspects that the lovers of him are tasting more happiness than him. Not simply more, but thousands of times more. So, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. How does he keep his status intact as a supreme enjoyer? He comes as his own devotee. So I often repeat Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's explanation of the situation. Both Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are Swayam Bhagavan. They're dual manifestations of Swayam Bhagavan, the ultimate cause of all causes. Mahaprabhu is not actually an incarnation. He's the original personality of Godhead, just as Krishna is. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains that when Krishna, Swami Bhagavan Krishna, wants to taste love of himself and separation, he manifests as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to be the supreme enjoyer, he manifests as Krishna. So this is how they are so interwoven. Dual realities of the same singular Swami Bhagavan. The overwhelming mystery of pure love attracts even Krishna. But how can Krishna experience what the devotees are experiencing? He can't do that as Krishna. It's like asking, of course sugar is inanimate, but just using an analogy, can sugar taste its own sweetness? No. Can Krishna taste the sweetness of what it's like to be his lover? No. But are we saying there's something Krishna can't do? He can taste the love, but not as Krishna. He comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to taste what it's like to just live for the happiness of Krishna. So in Vrindavan, it's very mysterious how the Brijbasis are 100% focused on Krishna's pleasure. Even when they seem to be crying out to Krishna in distress, some demon is attacking, some calamity, forest fire, what have you, it seems like they just want to save their own skin, doesn't it? Krishna save us! Krishna, Krishna, Mahabaho! Rama, Rama, help us! They call out to Krishna and Balaram. So that sounds selfish, doesn't it? You can't blame them for that. If you were in danger, you would call out to Krishna. So isn't it the same? They're calling out to Krishna. They want Krishna to protect them. But how can that be pure? How can that be thinking of Krishna's happiness 100%? This is how it works. The Brijbasis are thinking, if we die, Krishna won't be happy. We need to be alive in order to give Krishna pleasure. Therefore, Krishna should save us. You got it? In order for Krishna's happiness to be complete, we have to be alive. So therefore, we're begging Krishna to save us so that we can give him pleasure, because he needs us to give him pleasure. Mother Yasoda will think, well, who will feed him? Who will take care of the boy? The cowherd boys are thinking, Krishna needs us to play with and have sports. We can't die. And the gopis are thinking, everything about us is meant for Krishna's satisfaction. So everyone is just thinking, our life exists for Krishna's pleasure 100%. Just like in Gopalila, the cowherd boys get to a point in their forest pastimes when they are apparently hungry. The pastimes have been going on, it's getting past lunchtime. So what do? They call out to Krishna. Krishna, you have saved us from so many demons. Now we're being attacked by the demon of hunger. Can you do something about it? But what are they thinking? That sounds selfish, doesn't it? Well, you can't blame them. They want to eat. They're hungry. But how is that 100% selfless? 100% focused on Krishna's happiness? The cowherd boys, the acharyas explain, are actually thinking, Krishna hasn't eaten all morning. In order to get him to stop and eat, we have to present that we are hungry, and then he'll get the point. But their mentality is 100%. Krishna needs to eat. They're thinking 100% only of Krishna's satisfaction. So that is bhakti in its perfection. But how do we get there? This is why we need a program of devotional service in which we can invest our energies in Krishna service, in the association of devotees, and become purified of material desire. And when our bhakti community is strong on that point, persons who enter into that community become influenced, even though ordinarily they might not. This is the magic of pure devotional service. Others become influenced even though they have material desires. Their hearts start to become cleansed by the spiritual advancement of the community. In this way, Srila Prabhupada had complete, realized scientific faith that let them come. Whatever motivation they have, let them come. If they take up devotional service in the association of devotees, they will be purified. One of my godbrothers, I think it was Nandakishore, told me about Prabhupada in Montreal in the early days, like 1967 or 68, when there was no facility for Prabhupada to stay at the Montreal temple. So he was staying in a hotel, and this devotee was with him. And then he was astonished to see all of a sudden Prabhupada started laughing heartily, and laughing, and laughing, and laughing. And it just went on and on. He was just laughing and laughing. After 5 minutes of just laughing like this, Prabhupada just looked at him with wide open eyes and said, "Once they come to Krishna, they are caught." Now you could be cynical and say, well, many came and then they went away. But Prabhupada is seeing the broad expanse of time, that even if they come and go away, they have done service, which is an eternal asset. They are marked men, so to speak. They'll never be the same. As for persons coming and going, that is an unfortunate reality, but that's the way material existence operates, and we are spirit souls in material existence. So Srila Prabhupada explained about the coming and going of devotees. He said, I'm doing what I'm doing on the authority of Narada Muni, who said, even they come and go away, they're better off than if they don't come at all. I'm doing this on the authority of Narada Muni. That verse in the first canto, Chakkasudamam Charanam Bhujam. Let them come, get the eternal credit. They don't have to go. Of course, we don't want them to go, but even if they do go, they have done service. If they don't come back in this lifetime, they'll start off again in the next lifetime. So this is the bhakti science in its depth. You're marked. You have engaged in Krishna's service. Krishna has noted it down. This person has chanted before the deities. This person has clapped before the deities. This is all about transforming desire. And sometimes the full transformation doesn't happen in one lifetime. But what else is life meant for? If you understand the spirit soul is eternal, then you know there's a next life. And you continue your bhakti where you left off. You know about Arjuna's question to Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. What if persons take to the bhakti path and then desist due to worldliness, weak-mindedness? They lose it on both sides. They sacrifice their material possibilities for happiness. They didn't get that. And they didn't get this full spiritual happiness. So don't they lose both ways? And Krishna told him, listen, one who does good like that in bhakti is never permanently conquered by evil. So again, this is the transformation of desire. An interesting point about this list here. First of all, akama, one who's transcended all material desires. Sarvakama, one who has the sum total of material desires. and then moksha kama, one who desires liberation. There's something to this sequence, which in this day and age is hard for us to grasp, but it's an interesting point. The acharyas point out that when you compare, once you get past akama, those who have transcended all material desires, that leaves you with sarvakama, those loaded with material desires, and moksha-kama, those who are literally lusty for liberation. The latter is the most powerful desire, the most powerful non-spiritual desire. I said, well, we thought a gross materialist is it's the most diseased condition in terms of intensity. But the acharyas point out, actually, it's the moksha-kamis. How can that be? Well, they just want freedom from material existence. Who can blame them for that? But the acharyas point out that desire to become free from samsara and enter into Brahman is more lusty than the desires the gross materialists have. It's more intense. I know it's hard to understand. They're smart and then dumb at the same time. They're smart to realize there are problems with temporary material enjoyment. And therefore they want to get out of the whole cycle of samsara and merge into Brahman. But that desire is misplaced and it's more intense than the ones who are wanting to enjoy temporary material life. So just think about it. I want to get free from material existence. I'm tired of this suffering. I'm tired of this temporary material happiness. I want out. They feel that. The moksha-kamis feel that very strongly. It's hard for people to understand these days because very few want to get out of material existence, and the few who are smart enough to have that desire, who can criticize you for wanting to get out of samsara? But it's a misplaced desire. It has nothing to do with Krishna's pleasure. So therefore, the acharyas point out, they're last on the list because of the non-spiritual desires, they have their desires the strongest. To overwhelm by just had it. Maybe you can remember sometime in your life when you were temporarily disgusted with material life. Some experience happened to you, or some ordeal, some crisis, and you just, that's it, no more, finished, I've had it. Until the next weekend. But when you felt like that, it was really powerful, wasn't it? The frustration is more powerful than even the material desires. Even more powerful than the expression of material desires. You just want out temporarily. We don't want material desires, and we don't want to be lusty for liberation. Our bhakti process is training us to desire Krishna's pleasure. And Lord Chaitanya gives us that opportunity to surrender to Krishna by being part of a mission to distribute the glories of Krishna. This way, that way. Directly, indirectly, supportive, front lines, back lines, somehow or other become a part of that. Serve in that way, and the mystery of bhakti will become revealed to you in that your desires will change if you stick to it. So we have this greatest opportunity. Meant for those with the greatest intelligence. Udadadi. Let us not be small-minded, cripple-minded, and ruin this great opportunity. Let's expand the opportunity. And then you'll see, on a wider and wider scale, the transformation of desire. Thinking of Krishna's satisfaction starts to become second nature to us. All right, it may take a few decades, but what is a few decades in eternal time? Natural naturally and spontaneously you start thinking, what's the best for Krishna? What's the best thing I can do for Krishna's pleasure? Don't take those appearances of such mentality, motivation, don't take it lightly. It's the beginning of real love. And Krishna in your heart notices, oh, you're once again starting to think of me. Thinking of me means what pleases me. So this is the great opportunity we have, and if we can make a community, a setting, focused on Krishna's pleasure, others will enter into this community and also experience the transformation. Even though they may not know what's going on, their desires start to change because of their association. And that's what Srila Prabhupada had in mind. That's what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had in mind by establishing and advocating serving Krishna in the association of devotees. Tandara Tranasevi, Bhaktas, what is it? Tandara Tranasevi, Janame Janame Hoa E Avilash. Birth after birth, just let me engage in devotional service in the association of devotees. Any questions? Yes.
We'll just get a microphone.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Thanks because amongst other things, we're engaging in spiritual life to purify our consciousness. So I'm just wondering exactly what that means. Prabhupada mentions different places that consciousness is the symptom, the presence of the soul, but it's not simply we're trying to purify the symptom. So when we say purify consciousness, exactly what does that mean?
Before rain enters the atmosphere right down near the ground, it's pure. So consciousness is always pure. This example is given in the third canto, teaches Lord Kapila Deva. The rain is pure up high, relatively speaking, material example. But when it enters the lower atmosphere, it can become acid rain. It can mix with so many pollutants, although the rain itself is pure. So similarly, consciousness is pure, but because of association with the modes of material nature, it takes on impurities, which don't actually affect the soul. As the Shastra says, asanga yayam purusha. There's actually no connection between the illusory energy and the pure spirit soul. There's an imaginary connection, and that imaginary connection is the false ego, which imagines there's a junction between matter and spirit. So therefore, our pollutions are atmospheric and due to sangha. Is it in this chapter, earlier in this chapter, where the Bhagavatam says that, no, it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, before Lord Chaitanya explains about how Krishna handles material desires. Lord Chaitanya says, due to bad association, one becomes a satkami or a mokshakami, one who wants material desires or one who wants liberation. Mahaprabhu says it's because of bad association. That's how powerful association is. So yes, consciousness is always pure in of itself, but it gets influenced by association, by the atmosphere. So we want to create an atmosphere where the consciousness becomes distilled of impurities. And then you see the miracle of bhakti manifests before your eyes. Anything else?
I'm wondering if there's a difference between engaging in pure devotional service and being a pure devotee. Do you have to be a pure devotee to engage in pure devotional service, or is there a distinction between?
When you read Prabhupada's books, you'll see there's a broad range of what fits under the title of pure devotee. Approach it, I would say, from this angle. The example of the unripe mango and the ripe mango. Both are mangoes, but when you get into a more closer analysis, the unripe mango is not quite where the ripe mango is at. But if the unripe mango is left in the sun, it will become ripe. So from one point of view, they're all mangoes. But from another point of view, one is more ripe and more sweet. So you might say there are entry-level definitions of pure devotees, and then there are very strict definitions of what are pure devotees. Just like I was just hearing or reading a few days ago, Srila Prabhupada explaining that anyone who accepts that Krishna is the same as his name is a pure devotee. And then again, a pure devotee is someone who has no way of experiencing happiness except by the happiness of Krishna. That's the Vrindavan standard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to taste. So we can begin with the entry-level definition. When you chant Hare Krishna, you are completely convinced that Krishna is the same as his name. So sometimes Prabhupada would say, all my disciples are pure devotees. All the mangoes, whether ripe or unripe, they're mangoes. But then when you get into it, well, this mango is a bit bitter, and this one is super sweet. Okay?
Maharaj, in relation to being marked, and even if we have to take birth again, then on the other hand, you hear that Srila Prabhupada being quoted, don't take the risk of taking birth again. And then also the history of, I think, Emperor Constantine with the Christians, that reincarnation was in the Bible apparently at one point, but it was, the concept was taken out because people would think I can just do it in my next life. So is there a risk of taking birth, or are we marked and guaranteed to continue in Krishna consciousness?
A real devotee prays as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prays. This is our gold standard. Mama janmani janmani isware bhavatad bhakti rahoiti kitve. Birth after birth, I don't mind as long as I have service at your lotus feet. The focus is on the service. And when you're focused in that way, it actually doesn't matter your geographic location. Therefore, you read at the end of Prabhupada's prayers, Martine Bhagavat Dharma. Let me go through what I have to go through. Was it that prayer? Maybe it was another. It was another. Let me experience what I need to experience in terms of my reactions for countless births, but just let me remember, I am a tiny servant at your lotus feet. But that remembrance is no small thing. That's what makes the difference between the material and spiritual world. So such a devotee is always in the spiritual world. Just like when Prabhupada came to Melbourne in 76. Were you there, Maharaj? Yeah. He explained the difference between the spiritual and material world. It's simply, am I doing something for Krishna's happiness, or am I doing something for my own enjoyment? So then Prabhupada, you must have been there, Maharaj, when he just interjected, this is not Melbourne, this is Vrindavan! All the devotees went, so he made his case just based on Are you acting for Krishna's pleasure or are you not? If you're acting for Krishna's pleasure, you're in the spiritual world. If you're acting for your own pleasure, then you're in the material world. Anything? All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.